First and foremost, we are going at QB, the QB position. Players drafted similarly in similar tiers. Jay, you got Kyler, and I got Dak. So let's go ahead and hear it, baby. It's an uphill battle for you, what I think it is, but let's go ahead and hear you take on Kyler, man, and represent him good too.
Oh man, every time I have any kind of debate with anybody, P, especially against you, I'm going to represent myself very, very well. But Kyler Murray, man, this is a player I think, it's easy to forget about who he was as a player because he's been injured, because it's taken him time to get back on the field, because he hasn't had the same cast of crew of weapons around him. But you're talking about a guy who was an above 22 point per game player when he had healthy weapons, when he was healthy. So for me, when I look at this team, what did they do in the offseason? They went and got one of the best offensive weapons in the draft in Marvin Harrison to complement what Kyler Murray does. And even last year, when we saw him come back after his injury, he looked fine. He looked the part. He was averaging close to 20 fantasy points per game. Not to mention, we also saw the emergence of Trey McBride last year, which is going to help out this passing game. So I think overall, as James Conner stays healthy, they drafted another back in Trey Benson. You also have the upside of Marvin Harrison this year, which a lot of people will really, 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 really like in fantasy. But then you also have like 1,000-yard type of upside for Trey McBride as well. Not to mention they drafted third-round pick Michael Wilson last year. You signed a guy like Zay Jones in the offseason. You have a guy like Greg Dortch who the team likes. So it's not like this team is, doesn't have any weapons. Kyler, to me, is one of those players who is going criminally low. He's going as the QB 10 right now. And when you think about starting quarterbacks, you want players who can get over 20 fantasy points. Kyler fits that mold. I could easily see him being a top 5 to 6 fantasy quarterback this season.
Okay. All right. I could rock with that and I could appreciate that. But here's the reason I'm choosing Dak over Kyler. So you mentioned it, right? Dak is one of those players that you can grab who is a 20-point fantasy, 20 points per game. He's also one of those quarterbacks that you can get at the number 8 spot, 9 spot, and he can give you that top 3-4 upside as far as QBs go. So Dak himself is one of the biggest stats that jump out to me. The reason I'm choosing Dak over Kyler is from week 6 on, he was the number 1 fantasy QB, right? So that's one of the biggest things. Another thing that Dak that you don't really ever have a problem with is his health and stability. With a lot of QBs dropping like flies, especially Kyler, who has a history of that. The last 3 seasons, I believe he hasn't played more than what? Let's just go back. 2013, he's played 8 games. 2022, played 11 games. 2021, played 14 games. With me, I used to love drafting Kyler, but there's a tale of 2 Kylers. There's the first half, and then there's the second half. Yeah, he has a lot of weapons, but you mentioned it yourself. The running back that they got there. James Conner, never healthy. Kyler, never healthy. Rookie weapon and a wide receiver that his glorified weapon is a rookie going up against the NFC West and those defenses. Love him. He's little, can't stay healthy. Dak, you see last year, they unleashed him. They stopped running the rock. And people would say it's because they didn't have a running back, which may be true. He probably wasn't healthy. But still, like, what is their running game now? Rico Dowell and an old-ass Ezekiel Elliott? They're still going to let Dak cook. It's a contract year for Dak. He's playing for a contract to be the highest paid, whether it's on Dallas or whether it's somewhere else. So anytime you got somebody in the contract year, a premier target in CD Lamb, as well as solid targets around, right? They still got Ferguson. They still got Brandon Cooks. So he's gonna cook. And in that division, the NFC East, he has to cook because it's either him or it's the Eagles. And there's a lot of firepower with Washington. So he's got no choice but to put numbers on the board. I see another big, strong year for your boy Dak, even though I'm a Niners fan.
You know, Kyler, the thing about Kyler, bro, is you talked about Dak is going to be in these high scoring games and shootouts. Kyler is going to be behind in every single football game. He's going to be throwing, and we know what Kyler does when he's behind, P. He running his little ass all over the place. And you know what? We didn't get to see a whole lot of that last season coming from the ACL, bro. But Dak, like, I get it. Dak's in a contract year. We know what this offense looks like. It's CeeDee Lamb, and it's the exact same offense as last year. You don't think teams are going to adjust, P? You don't think teams are going to be like, hey, we're not letting CeeDee? And what happens if CeeDee Lamb doesn't come to camp, P? Then what? What happens if he isn't there week 1, P? Then what? Now we're talking about a whole different Dak Prescott. So I don't know, man. I hear you on the Dak thing, and he was #1 quarterback from week 6. I could, you know what I'm saying? But my boy Kyler, we talking about a perennial top 5 QB all the time, dog. Every single year, he's a top 5 QB when he's healthy.
When he's healthy, the biggest, hey, he's top 5 in Call of Duty too. But it's the whole thing with Kyler, man. I love Kyler. I love his usage in the red zone too, because he be scampering. But
what about an ADP, bro? So Dak typically goes a little higher than Kyler. Are you taking him or are you taking Dak at ADP at cost?
Bro, I'm telling you, I'm still taking at cost. I still got to take Dak. And it's not so much the cost because they're going in similar ranges. It's just the fact that, bro, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, still shame on me. 3 years in a row hasn't played more than 14 games. 14, 11, and 8.
Give me Dak. Give me Kyler. Give me Kyler. You can have Dak.
You got that Freudian slip, but I mean, we could go on. We could go on for days about Dak and Kyler, and that's just what we do, whether we're on the screen or whether we're not. We're